Well, welcome back, everyone. We have Dr. Perry Bush here from Bluffton University, and today we're going to be discussing a topic that's been all over the news lately, and it's about the Colorado Supreme Court and taking Donald Trump off the ballot as well. So, welcome, Perry.
Oh, yeah, it's good to be always be with you on WLAO, Chris. That's quite a bombshell that the Colorado Supreme Court dropped in American politics on Tuesday, and people are still dealing with the reverberations of that bombshell. I mean, it's going clearly to the Supreme Court, and they've got to rule it. And in fact, the judges in Colorado put a stay on their motion and said, you know, this motion doesn't qualify until January 4th, when the Secretary of State, by Colorado law, must certify their ballots. And if the Supreme Court doesn't act by then Trump will remain off the ballot in Colorado, and clearly there will be spinoffs elsewhere in other states around the country. So the Supreme Court is clearly be doing some work over the holidays while the rest of us are sitting back and picking up the Christmas wrapping. The Supreme Court's got to go back to work quickly to resolve this, and because if they don't, Trump will be off the ballot, and many Americans would be deeply concerned, in fact, angry about that.
Yeah. So for those that might be living underneath a rock, so explain to everyone what the third section of the 14th Amendment is. Like, what is that? What does it actually say?
Well, the 14th Amendment was passed in 1867, Chris, to clarify, what to do with the people who led the nation out of civil war. In fact, especially what to do with, 4 million recently freed enslaved people. And passed by the country. It's part of the Constitution, and it said that anybody who's engaged in an act of insurrection against the United States cannot be elected to office. And so there are people in various states saying that Trump did engage in acts of insurrection, and therefore he should be ineligible to run for the presidency or any other office again. In fact, there have been one guy, a county commissioner in New Mexico, has removed. He was actually convicted of part of the mob that helped trash the Capitol, attack the Capitol, and he was removed from his race. And so there are people making this case, and in fact, a majority, a 4-3 majority of this Colorado Supreme Court, it's a 7-court majority, and of course, all of them are Democrats, but 4 of them said that Trump should not be in the ballot, and so that's what's happened. That he's, he violated the 14th Amendment. And what it raises, Chris, all sorts of other legal complications. I mean, on one hand, there are people making this case, legal scholars making this case, and the legal opinions are now swirling around the world here, what's going to happen. And some said that President Trump was not an officer of the United States. That's only for appointed officers, not electoral ones. But, a lot of people have a hard time dealing with that. The Colorado Supreme Court addressed that. And, it's kind of a ridiculous argument that if the President of the United States is not an officer of the government, then who is, right? But then there's some other issues that appear to be more pressing. The fact is that Trump has never been convicted of insurrection. And there are plenty of people making a good case that he did inspire insurrection. He incited the mob, people say. He pressured Vice President Pence to violate the Constitution. He refused for hours to call off the mob. He encouraged bogus slates of electors. And those are kind of some of the factors that are going to go in front of the Supreme Court, by itself, with this case by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, maybe in March. But Trump has never been convicted. And in fact, Jack Smith didn't even indict him for insurrection. So it's really not fair to say he shouldn't run for office for a crime he's never been convicted of. And that's clearly a legitimate argument. And also clearly a powerful argument, Chris, is that millions of Americans deeply revere President Trump, former President Trump, think he should be president. And on the basis of this legal ruling, are you going to deny millions of Americans the chance to vote for the candidate they want most to be in office? So those are legitimate arguments, and those are ones that I think the court has got to sort through. On the other hand, one of the things that Trump is pressing, and I mean, this is really troubling for a good many of us, that Trump's lawyers are making the case that he enjoys absolute legal immunity from any act he committed while president. He cannot be charged with a criminal crime for any act he committed while being president. That somehow, again, he's arguing the president is above the law. There is no act of criminality he can commit while being president of the United States. And if the Supreme Court goes along with that ruling, then it means that the president is above the law. He's not a citizen, he or she. They're royalty. They cannot be charged with a crime. And, to go down that road, Chris, is well, is the road towards authoritarianism. And I can't imagine any Republican would feel fine with Joe Biden making that claim. Anything I do as president can't be charged for criminal conduct. So those are the kind of issues that the Supreme Court has got to wrestle with. And it's going to be tough. And the reverberations, the ripples from that are going to spin off for a long time in American politics.
Yep, Dr. Perry Bush, we're going to be talking about this for quite some time, I believe. There's a lot it's like a soap opera, really. These are the days of our lives.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. It's like I said, we're going to be talking about this for a while, I'm sure. So, especially, I'm sure it's going to go up to the Supreme Court. Who knows when? Probably, maybe soon, maybe not. But
they've got to rule by January 4th.
Yeah.
Trump's going to appear in the Colorado primary ballot. So, they got a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for coming on today. I appreciate it.
It's always good to be with you on WIO. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, too. Well, don't go away. We have more when we return.